So, Joe, we all think your secondary is really good. I mean,
As do I.
so why haven't they played very good? What's the disconnect there between talent and giving up 27 points over 5 possessions and not many deflections, interceptions, or any of those things?
Yeah. No, I agree, but I think they're I think they're an elite group. There's no doubt about it. I think the nice thing will be having Ja back, having him healthy, having him back in the fold. I think consistency is always a big thing, and we had a little stretch there where we lost Smash in the New England game for 3 quarters. Adrian Amos. So I think those 5 guys, just like any position group, the consistency, the ability to come together. Had a great 2 days on yesterday and today. So I think the more those guys play together as a unit, the more comfortable they get, and the better and better they'll play. But there's not a doubt in my mind. I still think it's a special group and it's an elite group.
Joe, Smash was saying yesterday with those crossing routes, he said teams are going to keep running them until we can prove we can stop them.
Sure.
Why have teams been able to get so many yards off those against you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think over routes are something that are, it depends obviously on what kind of coverage contour you're in. Not to get into too many X's and O's, but we have to play those better. I think we can mix coverage a little bit at times, because consistently there's been a few of those that have shown up in specific coverage principles that we've been in. So I think anytime that we can mix it up and change it up a little bit, I think that will obviously help. But yeah, it's a copycat league, and what I mean by that is when something happens in a game, it's going to show up the next game, and until you squash it, it's going to continue to show up. So I think there's a number of things that can help on that. Obviously, the changing of coverages. The best coverage is a great pass rush. If the quarterback can't throw the ball, it doesn't matter what you're playing behind it. So it all works together.
Joe, Rasul was so good outside last year. Is he better off out there? Would you think about?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we'd love to be able to get to that. And as I've told you guys before, we feel that we have multiple guys that can play the nickel. Ja being one of them, Darnell being one of them. Ja's availability just hasn't been there. So we've almost been forced to play Rasul inside. But we feel that we have a number of guys that we can stick in there. I think, obviously with Sav being able to move him around, if Savage isn't one of our 2 safeties, in order to move him, we have to put someone in at safety. And I think Rudy Ford has proven that he's, when he did have to go in and play against New England, he's getting more and more comfortable. So obviously the ability to be able to move Darnell around at other positions and be able to put Ford in the game, for example. Again, back to availability, just having those guys available to be able to do that's going to help.
Why don't you think the takeaways have been what they were last year?
Yeah.
I mentioned that requires certainly enough cooperation from the other team, but why?
Sure. And I appreciate you calling them takeaways. Offenses turn the ball over. We take the ball away. That's what we refer to them as. And, we preach all the time. I'm a firm believer that, takeaways they're created. They don't just happen. Offenses are too good. And you have to physically go take the ball away, whether it be, we call it punch, hammer, rake, when we're trying to create a fumble. When the ball's in the air. Again, I think when the ball's in the air, when the ball's thrown in the passing game, I think interceptions a lot of times are created. Again, when we talked about when you change up coverage, the better the pass rush is. Maybe the quarterback throws the ball a little sooner than he's ready to. Those are all things that go into taking the ball away on defense. And takeaways happen in droves. They really do. Every year that I've ever been a part of having a great takeaway year, which we did last year, they come in packs. So something that we preach it and talk about every single day, and we will continue. And I firmly believe they'll come. But you have to, An offense isn't just going to turn the ball over. You have to create those. You have to physically take the ball away, and we gotta keep chopping wood, and they'll come.
Matt said Monday that there are times to be more aggressive in coverage. Why hasn't that happened? So much off coverage Sunday, and is that a priority for you to change?
Absolutely, and I think we have the guys that can do it. Absolutely, I think every situation's different. We're not just going to go, play bump and run, press man coverage every snap. That's not the system that we run. But we do have to pick our spots, and we do have to be much more aggressive at times when we can be. And as I said with one of you guys when you asked about the what I think of our group, I think we have an elite special group that can go get after people and go challenge people and get in their face and be aggressive. And we need to do that.
Why hasn't that happened?
Jaire Alexander played maybe 50 snaps off the ball. I can't believe that he chose to do that. I mean, I'm assuming that that's built into your coverages. Is that the best use of his talent?
No, I mean, Ja's an elite corner. There's no doubt about it. But, I mean, there's so many things that go into, obviously, the coverage call. But then the down and distance, the split of the receiver, whether he's in a cut split, whether he's in a normal split, those are all things that factor into, specifically when you're talking about the alignment and the leverage of a corner that factor in. But yeah, I firmly believe that, and we've looked long and hard at that this week, that being able to allow our guys to be aggressive and go get in people's face. And, I think we have the guys to be able to do that, and we can do that. And we will do that moving forward.
Joe, what's the balance between making in-game adjustments and not having knee-jerk reactions?
That's a great question. I think personally, I never try to be a knee-jerk reaction guy. And I think that's the beautiful thing about an NFL football game is, every single series is an in-game adjustment. The common theme is, people always talk about, halftime adjustments. Adjustments are being made every single series. Great example in the New England game where, we went that series and a half of they were really getting after us in the run game. You don't have time in the second half to go in the locker room and make adjustments. Those things take place on the sidelines every single series. So I try to never, make knee-jerk reactions, but you are constantly, and that's, something I take a lot of pride in, and especially our staff takes a lot of pride in. We're constantly doing those things on the sidelines. When you see us in between series, it's a constant in-game adjustment.
Hey, Joe, I remember the first time we talked to you, you told us that you were proud of your scars and that you're hardened by tough experiences, which obviously you've experienced in Washington and Detroit. I'm wondering, and I think we'd all say in our experience, we've had a lot of guys say, oh, I don't read or I don't listen, and that's probably true for many of them, but people who love them usually do know what's being said. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering what the last couple of weeks have been like for you. You know that, there's a lot of questions about how your guys have played and the talent you have versus the success you've had. How do you kind of feel just the last couple of weeks have gone for you personally, and what do you feel like you have to do to get this defense to where it's supposed to be?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, going 0-16, that I don't feel like that right now. Okay, so let's be totally frank. It's the fifth game of the year, and quite frankly, I think we had a bad quarter in the New England game, and we had a bad fourth quarter last week. So I don't equate, I've told you guys before, I don't dwell on the past. I don't live in the past. I look forward. I don't look in the rearview mirror. So, I don't even think that's comparable to where we're at right now. But we got a ton of football left to play. We got a great group of guys. We learn from every single experience that we go through, and we learned a lot. we had 8 hours to think about it on that plane coming home from London. And the guys bounced back. We had a phenomenal day yesterday and a phenomenal day today. I've told you guys this before, it's a great group to work with because they're resilient as hell, and they come back to work every single day excited, wanting to get coached. So, and that's where we're at right now. Can't wait for Friday tomorrow.
So, and you obviously have a system that you believe in. This is my philosophy, I'm running this. You just were saying how, you're not gonna play bump and run man-to-man every single snap. So how do you figure out, okay, this is what we believe in, but these are some adjustments that we can make, and we can do this? Like, what is that process like? Because you don't want to abandon what you believe in, because that's why
Sure.
you have the job you have. At the same time, you know that maybe you need to do a few things differently. So how do you go about that process?
Well, I think that's, again, that's the exciting thing about the process. And every single week is unique and different. I think people get in trouble, personally. My belief is when you just have a dial a game plan. Hey, we're playing this offense, we're going to do this week. Hey, we're playing this offense, we're going to do this week. Me personally, I don't believe in that because I don't think you get good at anything. You have to have a style, you have to have a belief, you have to have a system. Now, within that, again, based on who you play week to week, because every single week is different in the National Football League. Personnel is different, system's different. Obviously, it's a quarterback-driven league. The quarterbacks are all different, and I think that is, to me, that is always the chess match every week is, okay, here's our system, here's who we are, but what are the subtle tweaks we're going to do? And like I said, it's happened a couple times this year. It happened, a handful of times last year where, you have to adjust. You have to, I don't want to say abandon ship and change because, like I said, I think that's not the right thing to do. I think you got to stick to your beliefs, but within that, you got to say, okay, we're getting hurt on crossing routes. What the heck are we going to do here? How are we going to fix this? How are we going to change this? And you got to tweak it. And that's what's great when you got a group of guys that we have. When you go in and say, hey guys, we've been doing this, but we subtly have to tweak it here and do this, they're all for it and they're good to do it. But I think that's part of the process. That's part of the 17 game season, week in and week out. You have to do those things.
Two more, please.
Well, in your effort to avoid the explosive gain in the league with even when the third string quarterback's got a rocket arm, does there have to be balance though in terms of if your veteran defensive back sees the formation, can jump a route, be aggressive to get that takeaway? I mean, do they still have that leeway?
Oh, of course. That I'm always especially and not necessarily with I mean, of course, with veterans you give them a little bit more leeway. But I'm a firm believer with players. Make a full speed decision, and I'm gonna 100% back you up on it. I never want. I know when I coached a position, when I coached the linebacker position, what makes football players good at this level is their instincts and their awareness, and you never want to take that away from them. And because they see things, they feel things different when the ball's snapped, and it literally happens in a millisecond. So I never want robots. I want guys that are reactionary, that use their instincts, that use their awareness and go. So we don't, we don't ever coach that to take that away from a player. We want that player to use, why he's here in the league, and especially veteran players. You never want to take that away from guys. Sometimes, you don't want vigilantes either. You don't want guys just going rogue on you and putting the other 10 guys on the field, at risk of a big play. But we want to allow our players just to go play and be free and go make plays. There's no doubt about it.
Joe, teams have had some decent success going at Stokes this year. What does he need to do to get back to who he was for most of last year?
Yeah, he's just got to keep playing. He's a young player. I mean, I think everyone forgets that, last year at this time, Eric Stokes was you know, in the first month of being a rookie, you know. So, you know, he got thrown into the fire last year just because of the injuries that we had, and ended up, you know, being a 14-game starter. But, you know, Eric is a second-year player. You know, he's still learning the NFL game. He's still getting better and better every single day. He's got unbelievable talent, unbelievable skills. So, I mean, Eric Stokes is going to be an elite player in this league for a long time. We just, you know, you can't forget he's a second-year pro.
Next one, Mark. You know the hit that Alexander had on Saquon Barkley?
On the sideline?
On the sideline?
Yeah.
Is that a case for playing him in the slot or not playing him in the slot? In other words, he could make those kind of plays playing in the slot and be very effective. But on the other hand, you don't want him to play like that all the time, right? Or get hurt. It's
Sure.
one or the other.
Yeah, I think I understand where you're going with that. You know, I talk here a lot about Jaire and what I feel about him and what I think about him as a player. You know, I don't think there's any position in the secondary that Jaire Alexander couldn't play. And I think where you're going, a lot of times, you know, corners, you got to be able to run, you got to be able to change direction. Nickels or safeties, they got to be a little bit more physical, they got to tackle. Jaire can do it all. He can. I mean, and that play right there on, right now, arguably maybe the most elite back in our league, the play that he made, the tackle that he made, what he did to him on the sideline, that just proves that Jaire Alexander not only can cover, he can run, he can hit, he can tackle. So yeah, I'm a firm believer that Jaire could be a phenomenal corner, which he is. He can be, you know, a phenomenal nickel corner if we choose to put him in there. You know, there's not many places in the secondary that Ja could not play. But that was, you talking about an elite play, you know. That was an impressive play.
I was just thinking, does the Najee Harris play make you think twice about doing that?
No, you know, I don't think, you know, I think that was just, injuries unfortunately are a part of this game. And I think players obviously never have that mindset. I think you got to be careful as a coach too when, you know, when those guys step in between the lines and the ball snapped, it's a violent physical game. And I think that was just a random freak accident. You know, it was a great tackle on a great back, and he just unfortunately hit him, you know, a little bit improper, and got hurt. But I don't think, I know that's the last thing on my mind when I see Ja, you know, go to make a play. I know it's the last thing on his mind, because he's healthy and 100% ready to roll.